Welcome to Grow Together Initiative. This is GTI TV. I'm Brad Fulner. With me is Joe Lombardi from Iron Hawk Financial. So thank you for joining us today, Joe. I'd like to know kind of how did you get started in financial literacy education, and how did you become so passionate about it, and what did you see in others that kind of drove you to this? And you have 3 kids, and how do you educate them on this, and how important is it?
Yeah, I mean, it was something happened to me is God just built my life to do what I'm doing. And what I mean by that is when I was like 12 years old, my dad was doing a job for a very, very wealthy client in Greenwich, Connecticut. And, he's like, hey, go play with his son while I price out the job, because he owned a construction company. And I thought I was going to be in construction my whole life. And so I ended up going down to this guy's basement, and it was like an elevator to get to the basement. It was the coolest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. Opened the basement door, he had a baseball field in his base. It was the craziest thing. This probably was a $10 million house 30 years ago, which God knows what it's worth now with inflation. And I got back in the truck. I go, Dad, what does that guy do? And he goes, oh, he works on Wall Street. So I was 12, like, I want to work on Wall Street. I had no idea what that meant, but I wanted to work on Wall Street, right? And then you fast forward, I'm a freshman at Southern Connecticut State University, and I had to pay my way. So I was bartending in Westport at Sakura. It was a very high-end Japanese restaurant. And the CEO of Northwestern Mutual came in, and he said, hey, this is the best service I've ever had. I would love for you to come join Northwestern and start selling protective products and growth products. And so I was 19, and I said, sure. So I was going to school full-time, bartending, and starting a financial planning firm.
That's awesome.
They helped me get all my licenses, my 6-7, 63, property casualty, life and health, and gave me a mentor, and I just was off to the races, and they sat down with me and they were telling me, like, hey, what's your niche? Like, what do you want your niche to be? And I said, I want to protect people that are like my father, because about 2 years before that happened, my dad ended up falling 3 stories off a ladder, a bone in his foot disintegrated, and he lost a $20+ million construction company that took him decades to build. So I said, how many other guys out there? Because it's not money. If my dad was worth $20 million, he could definitely afford a disability insurance plan. He could definitely afford a life insurance. He definitely has enough money to have the foundation, but why didn't he, right? And I saw that there's a huge gap in business owners' financial literacy into explaining to people that, if you're not going to protect yourself, who is, right? If you're not going to take the initiative to build a solid financial foundation, who will? And so that really affected me, and I said, well, he's a blue-collar guy. How many other blue-collar guys, don't have this, and they make great money? I mean, we're in Fairfield County. Like, it's one of the richest counties in the world. And so I just started networking, going to events, and then I remember driving. I had an old beat-up Chrysler Sebring with a missing bumper, and had rust on the side from the big snowstorms we had, the blizzards. And I would just drive on the highway, and as soon as I saw like a construction company, ABC Electric, 123 Plumbing, I'd pull up behind them, because there would be a cell phone number, and it was like, John's Construction, Peter's Landscaping. So I'd call them up, say, hey, my father was J.B. Lombardi Builders. He fell 3 stories off a ladder. Can I buy you a cup of coffee at the next exit at Dunkin' Donuts, and show you how I can save your family money on taxes and build a foundation for you. And people, believe it or not, were like, sure, you're going to give me something for free? Yeah, I'll talk to you. And I was like, it's like $10 for, a bagel, a cup of coffee, a breakfast sandwich. And people, I would, take out my notebook. I start drawing circles about taxes and foundation, and what they need to protect themselves from disability. If they get hurt, if they die, they're the breadwinner.
All the insurances necessary, and so forth and so on, umbrella and all those kind of things.
Yeah.
Are vital.
And then I try to save them money, because I'm like, hey, these are the insurances they are paying for, right? Liability, workman's comp, business auto, health insurance.
Yep.
I said, if I can save them 10, 20, 30% there, I could take those dollars that I saved them and get them the life, the disability, the long-term care, all the things they didn't have but they need. And most business owners, what they were doing is they were protecting all the eggs, right? The house, the business, the truck, the car. They weren't protecting the goose, laying the golden eggs. right? And I heard this really good analogy. They said, if you had a machine in your basement printing out your annual income, would you insure the machine? And everyone's like, if I had a machine in my basement printing out $200,000 a year, yeah, I'd definitely insure it to make sure it stays running so those dollars can come in and I can have my quality of life. But people have a misconception when it comes to like, oh, I'm working, I am the machine. And they're like, oh, I'm insured up the yin yang. I don't want to, have another expense. Then I found permanent insurance. That's actually an asset. So meaning it's on the left side of the balance sheet as an asset, not a liability, because a lot of business owners, they have what? Auto, home, liability, health insurance. That's all liability, 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 liability. And they don't really have any assets. So I said, well, what if I could show you a way where you can protect your family, save you millions of dollars in taxes, make double-digit returns, lean the money out like it's in a checking account or a savings account, still earn interest on it, and use those dollars and not handcuff them to your 59 and a half like you're doing with the government-sponsored stuff.
And how many people have you protected and grew their income, put them in a really good position, really kind of saved their life and their family's life? How many do you think you've saved over the years, and do people receive it that way? Do they understand? Because you don't know you need it until you're in desperate straits, and the numbers are very clear. 68% of people with critical illness and so forth and so on, they're bankrupt, 7 years after they get that diagnosis.
I know.
So, I mean, what do you say to that? Do you have a lot of testimonials that this is so important? And, making sure they go, I like that you say, have your life insurance, your health insurance and all that, and you can save 10 or 15%. So take the money that you would have paid and apply it to an investment, right?
Correct.
And isn't that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah, 100%. Okay. So I have over 3,000 clients, over $3.6 billion of protection rollovers in 23 years. I have them in all 50 states, clients, really trying to build a national initiative to get the word out there that when you deal with the government only cares about the government. Government's not your friend, right? So you have to copy what the ultra rich do, and they go to the private sector. And in the private sector, there's a lot more freedom. It's not as constrained. So, what I did is I worked with this guy, Mike Lynch. When I was at Barnum Financial Group, that was MetLife's #1 office in the country when I was out of Wall Street and Shelton, Connecticut. And he had his own radio show, Money Talk Radio, and I was his apprentice. I would bring him opportunities for like 2 years, and I would just sit there and smile and learn from how he did it, how he rolled over $15 million, how he did estate planning, how he did legacy planning, how he did college planning, not using the traditional government, what I call junk, 529s, checks, write-outs. And so all I did was I just copied him, and then I started my own business, Ironhawk Financial. And it grew so fast for the simple fact that a lot of people don't know this stuff. That's why your show is so vitally important, to get this information out there. Because for some reason, money is taboo when it shouldn't be. It should be something that's talked about a lot more than it is. I mean, you look at the Bible, it's talked about the most. Money is talked about the most out of any other subject in the entire Bible. But yet, as a cultural thing, it's almost like the government wants to mute that so that they can enslave us. And they can tell us what we're doing, and we can pay federal taxes, state taxes, FICA, Medicare, unemployment, Social Security taxes, and then they colluded with Wall Street with the whole 401k. I'm sure you know about that in the 1980s.
Very familiar.
Where Wall Street bought politicians, and a 401k used to be tax-free. And then the Wall Street said, we want to cut. So that, they're like, let's add all these fees, 12B1 fee, Class A share fund fee, money management fee, annual account fee, mutual fund expense fee, AUM fee. So now you have this diluted asset class with IRAs and 401ks and SEP, simples, pensions, deferred comp, 457s. And those are just IRS codes. That's all they are. Like when you think of a 401k, it's an IRS code. You think of a 403b, IRS code, 457, IRS code. But what do the rich use? They use IRS code section 7702, 7,702 all the way at the bottom of the book. Well, they want us citizens to have all the codes up top. Just do the easy ones. Those are the ones where Wall Street steals half your money when you're accumulating, and then the federal and state government steal half your money when you take distributions, and they want to enslave your time, which is your most valuable asset, with taxation. Well, the rich people said, well, we're going to build our own. So they built 7702 plans where they don't have Wall Street taking half their money. They don't have federal and state governments taking their money. There is no 59.5-year rule. There is no 10% penalty for early withdrawals. There is no RMDs, required minimum distributions, for 73.5. They kick all those rules that benefit the government, not the investor, out. And so I said, this is crazy. I got to let everybody know there's a better way than a 401k. And that's one of the 3 books I published on Amazon that are, 5-star rated.
Of course.
And you just got to get this information out there.
And that's the key. You want to give people options, and they need to be educated. And that's what this show is about. That's what we're going to do together. We'll help educate, as we go down, we'll bring in all these different components of investing and why these are not necessarily offered to the general public, because again, it's kind of taboo. You don't talk about finance. You need to talk about it though, wouldn't you agree?
100%.
I mean, and protect yourself and protect your family, because there will be a time when you're going to wish you did, and then it's too late. So get it, I highly advise everybody to kind of get together with an advisor of some, I don't care which one it is. You can go to Joe, you can go to anyone, but just get some advice and get someone who you trust.
Correct.
Because you're just naturally just that trusted person, and you do a lot of wonderful things, and we'll get into some of the things you're going to do with GTI and all that stuff, is doing some events and whatnot, and your contribution, and really that's a way for you to give back. You're giving this money not because you're just trying to give it to a charity. You're trying to educate them and have them use the tools, the money that you're giving them, to kind of build out some of these things and start, because you need to start somewhere. It doesn't matter if they start with Acorn, or they start with you,
right,
or they start with Merrill Lynch, or any of the other brokers and
Correct.
whatnot, anybody you might have worked with before.
Yeah.
Just do something and get educated. There's so much information. Use AI to kind of determine, maybe give you a menu of people that you might want to connect with, and then with their expertise, because all these brokers have their different menu of opportunities for you. But they don't offer all of them.
Correct.
And it being independent like you can offer all of them.
That is correct.
Right? So, you can use the Prime Capitals, you can use the Merrill Lynch, you can use Morgan Stanley, you can use Vanguard, Fidelity, so forth and so on.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the benefit of maybe going through you and be independent. Not saying that you shouldn't have those other accounts, but they have protection in there. SEC governs them pretty closely, as they do you. Like, you have the ability to give them a menu of options. You're not restricted. You can get into life insurance, health insurance, and you're independent of anyone.
Correct.
So really get people in a good position and educate them on how to review an insurance policy. Read the whole policy. We just had an incident in California and North Carolina. Unfortunately, people lost their home, and they're just out, and they talked about the celebrities. And they say, oh, it's too bad that the celebrity lost a $20 million home. I'm like, I'm not worried about them. I'm worried about the normal homeowner.
Correct.
In California and North Carolina.
Yeah.
But they have no way, now you just bankrupt them. So what do you say to that as far as how we get the word out? I mean, we can use GTI,
Absolutely.
TV, to kind of get the word out, but also we have the ability to kind of bring in a lot of agents, anyone in the country specifically, really the world.
The world, yeah.
So how do you think some ways we could do that through GTI TV? And we'll come on, and you can even be the host and kind of bring some other people in, and educators and so forth. How do we get to the schools? Because that's what my passion lies. I want to get younger. There's certain groups of people that do a really good job educating their youth.
Right.
That's what I'd like to, we've got some books. You've written 3 books.
Yeah.
And all
you've
those.
written a really good book too.
Well, and it's really nice to have something that's kind of helpful, that's more animated.
Yeah.
That plays almost like a Sesame Street.
Yeah.
That plays directly to the young children. Because there's really nothing out there that teaches financial literacy and education.
No, it really
Back
doesn't.
in my day, we had Sesame Street, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, and
yeah.
Schoolhouse Rock.
Yep.
They had that. Those aren't really around.
Those shows are
as
gone
much.
now. I know. It's sad. And they're replaced with brain rot and these
Yes.
short 10-second quick
Correct.
hits, where it's teaching these kids to have no brain span. and it dumbs them down, and then, you know, it's almost like the government wants that.
Yeah.
The government likes having dumb citizens because they're easy to manipulate and control. You know, hey, take this jab, look at how good this cheeseburger is. You want to get this jab. Like, if you're smart, you sort of look through that, like, I'm not going to take an experimental drug for a bite of a cheeseburger. But
Correct.
most people didn't. They're like, oh, I want the cheeseburger.
Right.
I'll go get
That's a very good point, because there's no money in Social Security, right?
Oh, no.
And-
It ran out.
Right. And our politicians leverage it
Yes.
to try to get us to vote for them.
Of course.
And that's an issue.
Well,
it is for me.
They take money from one person, lose that vote, and give it to 5 people and
That's
get 5 votes.
That's right. And just to kind of buoy up, because all they have to do with Social Security is just increase the age.
Yeah, and just keep
There's
increasing
all
the
kinds
age.
of, I mean, there's other benefits Social Security does besides that for people disabled and whatnot.
Right.
But for the most part, there's no money in there. We're all contributing to it.
Well, we're dying earlier too.
And
for
I-
the first time
right.
in human history.
I mean, I would like to have, so they have some new programs coming out, the newborn babies.
I love that program.
Yeah.
With Trump. Yeah.
Do you know more about that? I know it has Trump's name on it, Trump Initiative. But what do you think about that?
I
mean,
love it.
Right, I do too.
Putting away thousands of dollars, getting a write-off, setting your child up for financial success instead of financial failure. You know, because these poor kids have been brainwashed by the big major corporations to go to college and go $250,000 in debt, which doesn't just cost you $250,000 because you have this pesky thing called interest.
That's right.
So it ends up costing you $500,000-600,000, and you wonder why nobody can buy a home. Because our generation, we didn't have to go in that debt. I remember when I went to Southern Connecticut State University, it was $3,000 a semester. I bartended my way. At the end of the semester, I wrote a check. I graduated with no college debt. Now these kids want to go to UConn. It's like $50,000-$60,000 times 4.
Yep.
And then they need books. They need room. How are they going to get to and from? Right? They need a car and gas and I mean, board is like another $10,000-$15,000 a year. A food package is $7,000-$8,000 a year. So I mean, by the time they're graduate, there's $320,000.
They have a mortgage payment
at 8%, 9%.
That's right.
Compounding
That's
negative
right.
amortization.
So how are they ever going to be able to
They
buy a home?
can't. And then the whole system is rigged against you. And it's like we have these Social Security numbers. I call them our slave numbers. And that's like you need to work, 10, 20, 30 years of your life for the government. And it's like, whoa, I'm supposed to be working for Jesus, my God.
Yeah.
I'm not supposed to be working for a human-made system that doesn't care about us. They send our kids to die overseas when they fight over oil and stuff, and it's not like the military doesn't get the percentage of the oil that we actually stole from the other country.
That's exactly right.
And then they have all mental problems, and they have PTSD, and they just throw them, into medication. Like, here, just be a heroin addict for the rest of your life because I'm in a white suit. Let me give you this drug. But if I go to the street and bought the same drug, then the guy selling on the street goes to jail. But the guy gets a promotion if he sells it wearing a white suit working for the government. So it's the whole system. It's hard. You would think, hey, let me trust my government. Wouldn't you think they would have my best interest at heart? But in reality, they most likely don't.
Trust but verify, right?
They have their best interests at heart, and then the education needs to get out there, not to be mistrusting and not to have be cynical and negative, but you just have to critically think for yourself. If someone's asking you to do something, why are they doing it? Is it for me, or is it for them?
And each person needs to make that decision for their family, for them,
For their children,
and empower them and educate them. I ran the numbers on because that initiative. It was, I think, it could contribute $5,000 every year, right?
Yes.
And I ran the numbers for 65 years. If you maxed it out, so for birthdays and Christmases and all that, you contributed to that $73 million if it replicated what the S&P 500 did.
Isn't that
now you're
crazy?
helping the companies in the United States. They're going to be in a good position. So we're going to be rooting for all these companies. We're going to consume products because it helps us.
Right.
$73 million, and that's at $5,000. What happens if you add another $5,000? Now you're up to $140 million. Wouldn't it be a great world if we had literally a $500 million per family? A lot of issues would be resolved.
Oh my God.
We have the mechanism to do it in the United States. We just have to have our money work for us and protect us from any difficult situations like disabilities and other issues that could come up that could derail you, and you get hurt and you can't go to work and all that. I mean, the rule of thumb is if you're out of work for a month, it takes a year to get back to where you were.
Correct.
That's the numbers. So you do that a few times over the course of 20, 30 years, you're back to zero. No wonder people are, literally retiring. They have maybe $100,000, $150,000 to retire, which is not nearly enough.
It's not. And me being in this industry for 23 years, meeting thousands and thousands of family, I'll tell you, it's not about how much money you make. I have clients that make $750,000 gross, and you're thinking, oh, they're totally set, they must be millionaires. Their net worth is negative. And then I have clients that make $50,000 a year. One's a teacher, another one's an engineer making 80. They're making 130 gross, 5 times less than that family who's making 3/4, and they're millionaires. What I found is that your relationship with money is tied to the relationship of how you view yourself.
Mm-hmm.
If you love yourself, if you heal your childhood trauma, if you heal the negative aspects of yourself, and you actually look at money for what it is as a tool, it's not a tool to make your neighbors jealous who don't care about you by buying a car you can't afford. It's about taking 10%, like a tithe, and investing it in you. Right? Could you tithe the church? Sure. But tithing yourself is so vitally important that the average American doesn't do, to say, I'm going to live below my means. If I make $100,000, I'm going to take $10,000 and I'm going to put it for me for later, in case there's an emergency, an opportunity, in case something happens where my family needs, where a foreclosure, I can buy my aunt's house and not have it go to the state. So having that ability to tithe yourself and look at the relationship as money for what it is. Money is the option to do X. Money buys you freedom. Money buys you time. Time is your most valuable asset. You can always trade time for money, and you can never go back and trade money for time.
Capitalize on the compounding interest.
Correct.
Right? Okay, right.
It's that sixth wonder of the world.
Yes.
Money making money on money making money. And so having that foundation set up to make sure, hey, because there's 4 things that are guaranteed to happen to every human. One is you're going to live long. One is you're going to die early. One is you're going to get disabled. And one is you're going to need long-term care. You're not going to be able to take care of yourself older age. What most people do is they don't plan for that because it's morbid. I don't want to think about, me not being able to wipe my own butt, or I don't want to think about me not being able to transport myself to a store to buy groceries. But we come into this world in diapers, and we go out of this world in diapers. It's a bell curve, and most people rather ignore it. That's how my father was. He said, ain't gonna happen to me. I'm Superman. I've been doing masonry and construction for decades. His calves were the size of, bowling balls. And then what happened is false 3 stories. My mom was like, ain't gonna happen to me, and she dies at 52 years old from cirrhosis of liver from alcoholism. My grandmother, inherited my grandfather's estate, Lombardi masonry, out of Trumbull, Connecticut. She lost $4 million to a nursing home. So like people don't think it happens to them, but the only way it doesn't happen to you needing care, is if you die early.
Yep.
That's the only way it doesn't happen. And so it's like, yay, I died early? Like, no.
Exactly. So you're just trying to help them, put them in a position that they have the financial resources and support to have the caregivers, and live a healthy life.
Yeah.
Because in some ways in this country, we don't do a great job with the elderly.
We really don't.
And
throw them in a 10 by 10 jail cell, known as a nursing home.
And people don't have the resources
See you
and
later.
support. Going back to like any kind of critical care or cancer or something, somebody gets diagnosed with that. Well, I've got a lot of examples where people had like a living benefits type of thing. And they've overcome these illnesses because they had the money, they had the resources to go out and, spend $500,000 to $1 million on experimental.
100%.
I know you have some of those stories as well, right?
Yeah.
It makes all the difference in the world.
Because
otherwise, they're not only draining their own resources to try to survive, but the rest of their
surviving
family.
spouse.
That's right, and the rest of their extended family.
Well, can you imagine you have two spouses, one's healthy, one's unhealthy. And now the unhealthy spouse is losing their spouse, their husband or wife,
Yep.
seeing them deteriorate physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually.
Mm-hmm.
And then all the money's sucked out, and the healthy spouse has 15 more years to live. The healthy spouse did everything
That's right.
They saved, they had their 401k, they had their pension, they
Which is
owned
going
their
to be
house.
taxed, by the way, with the 401k.
And then
So
it's
the
all
system's
gone.
set up against you.
Of course, it's set up to
And-
to accumulate and then them to take everything from you. And now you have 10 years living in poverty on Social Security for less than what you were working. So then you have to go to welcome the Walmart strategy just so you can afford TV and a hot meal because all you're eating is canned beans.
Yep. So what do you think about this? Because if you make $40,000, you're in the upper 1% of wage earners.
In the world.
In the world, right?
In the world, yep.
So I've always kind of advocated for save 20%, invest 20%, and tithe 10%. So you live off 50%. And people say, well, you can't do that. Yes, you can if you start early.
Correct.
Because when you're getting that allowance when you're younger, start building that skill set.
And then that's
It'll help you for
compounding.
the rest of your life, because you're not going to need. The very wealthy, they spend a fraction of their money. It's always working.
You know the question I ask all my wealthy clients? I ask them, I said, if I gave you $5 million in cash today, would it change your life? Unequivocally, I mean 100% of my clients that are worth more than $5 million. If I said, hey, if I give you $5 million, change your life, not one of them said yes, it would.
Correct.
Like, I would just invest it.
That's right.
I would throw it in crypto. I'd throw it in gold and silver. I'd throw it in the
Right.
annuity with you, Joe. I'd throw it in an index
Something.
universal life. But it wouldn't change their lives. So there's
Warren Buffett says the same thing. He says, you could take everything away from me, and I'd have the same amount 2 years from now. Same kind of
because
concept, right?
it's a mental thing. It's a feeling. It's an energy, a vibration, a relationship
Yep.
with money. Because if you think you can, you won't. If you think you can, you will. Either way, you're right. If you think money's always going to be a problem in your
Henry
life,
Ford said that, right?
it will. Yeah, the little engine that could.
Yeah. It's funny when we start talking about why this is so important to build this skill set. Professional athletes are bankrupt 3.5 years. 85% of
Isn't
them
that sad?
are bankrupt 3.5 years after they retire.
Winning lottery winners too.
Same number. 85% of
Correct.
lottery winners are bankrupt
Correct.
3.5 years after winning the lottery. Big
Correct.
dollars.
Like 100 million,
Big
200
dollars.
million, yeah.
Correct. So, and that just tells you they haven't built the skill set. They haven't done what you and I have done.
People don't understand. If you buy a house, it's like, oh, I buy the house for 300 grand, I'm done. It's like, you're just getting started.
That's right.
You have property taxes.
right.
You have insurance on the
Maintenance.
house. You got to buy a snow blower. You got to buy a weed whacker. You got to buy a chainsaw. You got to buy a lawnmower. You got to heat it.
Yep.
You got to update the furnace. The refrigerator's
Yep.
gonna go. The flooring's gonna go. The roof's gonna leak. Like, I bought my house the first week I was there, the furnace went.
Yep.
And I'm like, oh, there's $25,000 I wasn't expecting right when I bought my second house, my upgraded house. So what people do is they have a misconception. They go, oh, if I buy this vehicle for $100,000, I buy this Tesla plane, $100,000, I'm good. It's like, no, you're not. You have car tax of $3,000 a year. You have to get, you don't have to
And
gas
it's
it, but
appreciating
you have to maintain it. You got to do the tires. You got to do the brakes.
Yep.
I mean, brakes for my car were $5,000.
I bet. Yep.
And I'm like, what? Because I have a supercharged V8.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's ridiculous. Because my last car, they were $200.
That's right.